What's going on, you all? Coach Reese here. Listen, I wanted to shoot this video on sparring. Very good topic. I hope you watch this video all the way through. But someone asked me in the comment section on one of my past videos, any advice on how to stop being nervous or scared when it comes to sparring? I have a simple answer, but I also have like some in-depth tips or whatever the case is that'll help you out and, hopefully help you get away from that. But my main tip for you who want to stop being nervous and scared when it comes to sparring is keep sparring. Just keep sparring. It's new to you. And there are a lot of stigma and stimuli that take place that I'm going to break down for you in just a moment too. But I want you guys to understand that because it's new to you, it's going to be fatiguing, it's going to be nerve-wracking, and you have to get used to the act of actually sparring. What is sparring? Sparring is when two competitive boxers, hopefully competitive boxers, or individuals who are going to compete in boxing actually get in the ring and try to utilize certain skills and work on certain things so that they can sharpen their toolbox. Nothing more, nothing less. There are times for hard sparring when competitors are getting ready to go and actually compete. But other than that, sparring should be an exchange between two fighters as to where they're working on something. So one may be working on their defense, one may be working on specific counters, one may be working on how to work in with certain leads, but it's all about being smart and not going out there trying to take each other's heads off. You're not trying to win sparring. Nobody wins sparring. Your record doesn't increase in the gym if you, in your head, win a round of sparring. The only way you win sparring is if you've learned how to do something. You've learned something new or you've worked on a weakness of yours. Some days are good in sparring, some days are bad. And everybody has good and bad days, be it top of the pinnacle, down to the bottom. But anyway, let's get into the stigma and stimuli that you may have to get used to when it comes to sparring so you can get a bit more comfortable. Number one on that list as far as what you have to get used to is the time. Yes, you find out how long 2 and 3 minutes really are in combat when you get in that ring because your adrenaline's rushing, you're on offense, you're on defense, you're trying to work in, you're trying to be smart and figure out how to work with your opponent. Meanwhile, while all that stigma and stimuli is going on, the clock is doing this. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how fast or how slow a second is going by while you're out there pretty much fighting for your life. In the beginning of the sparring, because your nerves are so bad, you're pretty much feeling like you're fighting for your life or trying to survive or trying not to get knocked out. In which your sparring partner shouldn't be trying to knock you out. They're just helping you expose openings, but that's another story. So in amateur boxing, you have 3 2-minute rounds, 120 seconds, 120 of those claps. Or in pro boxing, you have 180 seconds, which is 3-minute rounds. And they can, go from 4 rounds and up, depending on whether you're earlier or later in your career or in your tenure. But that long time is very, very, very crucial as far as you learning how to pace yourself, you making sure that you're in shape to make sure that you can, last the entire 3 rounds, 3+ rounds, or whatever the case is. And it can be a bit nerve-wracking. The average street fight, from what I've seen after I started training boxing, lasts anywhere between 7 to 13 seconds. Pretty much as short as an Instagram highlight reel. 7 to 13 seconds. And those jokers are out of wind, they're out of breath, they're probably highly intoxicated, skills are trash, defense is trash, and they're just swinging for the fences. Boxing is completely different. It's skilled, it's technical, it's technical, it's tactical, and you have to make sure that you're on your P's and Q's and that your head is in the game as well. So I remember when I started sparring, I was super nervous. I sparred a guy half my height, half my weight, but he had been boxing for a time period, maybe 8 years or so before I started boxing and whatnot. But I was also in those nervous shoes. So the coach came to me, he was like, hey, I want you to go out here and spar Jamal. And I'm looking like, Jamal's been boxing for 8+ years. There's nothing I can offer this man, even though I'm a heavyweight. At that point in time, I'm 187 pounds. Jamal maybe 140 soaking wet. However, coach said spar, so it's time for me to spar. So I'm super nervous. I've had a few street fights back in the day or whatever the case is, but I've been, training a little bit, maybe a couple of weeks or whatever. And coach really wanted to see if, if this is for me, if it's not for me, because there's a such thing, in my opinion, called a defining moment, which I'll explain in just a second. But anyway, I'm nervous. So I go to put the headgear on. I act like I don't know how to put the headgear on. I'm shuffling, I'm waiting, and coach comes over there, hurries, put it on my head, and before you know it, I'm strapped up. And I'm like, man, this is really about to happen. Stomach just, nerves gone, stomach just light, Luckily, I didn't have to use the restroom or anything. But anyway, coach set the clock, and he looked at me. He was like, hey, just use your jab. Jamal's shorter than you, so you should be able to keep him off of you with your jab. I'm 6'2", Jamal's maybe 5'7", 5'6". Keep him off you with the jab. Boom, the bell rings. I'm out there jabbing for dear life, jabbing. Now, my first time ever sparring, so I have a horrible inner clock as far as keeping time on, hey, how much time has actually passed. Back in this day, it's the rotary clock situation. So I'm jabbing and looking, and yeah, it's 2 minutes coming, 2 minutes is coming, 2 minutes is coming, boom, 2 minutes came, and keep in mind, Jamal was so good that he didn't even have his hands up while I'm jabbing at him. He's just sitting there, boom. And while he's doing that, I'm looking at my coach like, hey, I'm jabbing and ain't no jab working. What do you expect me to do with this? So anyway, we get to the point where, boom, 2 minutes hits on the clock. I drop my hands and Jamal jumps at me. And I kind of jump back and he does this. I look at coach and coach says, oh yeah, it's 3 minutes. I'm like, you know what? Screw this jabbing. My shoulder's burning. I'm fatigued. I'm done. I'm about to swing a hook and knock this guy out. So I swung a hook and whoosh, Jamal disappeared. And I seen everybody in the room who was watching me spar. My arm is still moving. I see coach. I see a couple people sitting on the bench over there. And I'm like, bro, where did he go? And I felt the hardest punch I've ever felt in my stomach shift me and move me. And when it hit, it shifted my stomach over and I flew over to that side. Now, by this time, after Jamal pulled that hook to my body, he was already over there waiting on me to come over to where he already was. And he came back across and bam, hit me in the face and spent my headgear. And I fell to my knee, boom, one fist on the ground. And this is what I call everybody's defining moment. It's happened with me. It's happened with my fighters. It's the defining moment. It's the part where you either get knocked down, sat down, and you have this moment right here to decide if boxing is for you or if it's not for you. If you stay down, boxing isn't for you. If you get back up, you're valiant, you have heart, boxing may be for you. I got back up. I took my beating. And, over time, Jamal took me under his wing and showed me a lot of, techniques and styles and things of that nature. And, really took good care of me as far as pulling me up. But I say that to say that the time management aspect of boxing is one serious aspect or one serious stigma that actually causes people to get nervous. And it's something that you need to get hold of. Stigma number 2, acoustics. Okay, so you've got on this headgear, right? And if you're under the age of 35, you can wear the open face headgear. If you're over the age of 35, you've got to have the cheek guards. A lot of people choose cheek guards, and a lot of nervous individuals choose the bar across the face, the nose bar. But the acoustics, and what I mean by acoustics is the sound that it actually makes when you're getting hit. So 2 different sounds. It's the body sound, and it sounds like a drum when you get hit. So when you first get hit to the body and it makes that thudding sound, whether you've tightened your stomach, hopefully you've tightened your stomach, but when you get hit in the body, it makes a raw sound, and if you get hit in the head, and when you get hit in the head, not if, when you get hit in the head, the ring that's around your ears kind of makes the sound protrude a bit more. So you'll be under the illusion that you've been hit harder than you were actually hit. It's kind of like magnifies and amplifies the sound. So those acoustics are a bit different. In street fights, you're just getting hit with knuckles. Now, don't get me wrong. Knuckles are knuckles. They're going to do what they do. However, when you're in the ring with a trained individual, somebody who's training like you are, who's strength training and who's hitting bags and who's hitting pads and who's skilled just like you are, it's an exchange of skill. So when you get hit by somebody who has skill versus somebody who just has regular street fighting experience, it's a complete difference. So you're going to hear those acoustics. You're going to have to get used to the muffling, loud muffling sounds it makes. And sometimes it may sound like you've got popped. And maybe you did get popped. However, the sound sometimes is worse than the actual hit. The acoustics of the actual punch and the acoustics of the audience, the oohs, the ahs, the all of that, or whatever the case is. If anybody's in there watching you spar, you might hear the and all the effects people make when people get hit. You've got to get past that. So it's a really psychological game to get past when you're working on your time and your acoustics of actually getting hit. The third stigma and the third stimuli is how to use your brain in the midst of combat. That adrenaline's running, that adrenaline's pumping. So how are you able to think in the midst of being hurt, in the midst of defending yourself and coming out the victor? That is the most exhausting part of boxing. The fact that you actually have to use this. Your body's going to be in whatever condition it's going to be in, whether it's, been strength trained, whether your conditioning is up, your power, all of that or whatever, your defense and everything that you've learned, you're already equipped with that. So from here down, there's nothing else that you can do. It all comes down to what it can come from up here as far as telling your body what to do. Hopefully you've shadow boxed. Hopefully you've been working on combinations. Hopefully you've been working on a few things already. But the actual ability to make adjustments in the ring, to actually execute whatever it is that you see as far as an opening on your opponent, the ability to create openings on your opponent, the ability to reposition around your opponent, that all comes from here. So the ability to use that brain is the most fatiguing part when it comes to sparring and when it comes to fighting. You have to get used to that. It's all of these stigmas that tie in together: the time management, the actual acoustics, and the ability to use that brain. And that only comes in with repetitive sparring. How do you repetitively spar? You get sparring partners that are going to work with you. Sparring is supposed to be work. Like I said, it's supposed to be an exchange of skill building between two athletes in the ring. It's not supposed to be people going out there trying to knock each other's heads off, trying to walk out with black eyes and bloody noses and, broken joints or whatever. That's not sparring. You build your skill by sitting there with an opponent who's going to work back and forth with you. So if an opponent sees an opening on you, they should consistently work that opening until you correct your opening. And the same thing with you. If you're giving somebody some work and they're steady open, doing something or making a mistake, it's up to you to help them correct that mistake by constantly exposing the opening. Sparring is supposed to be an exchange which builds both of the individuals, both of the competitors up to the point as to where they're ready to compete. And then hard sparring may come when it's time to condition and go a bit harder. Other than that, that's what I got for you guys as far as building up your, prowess for sparring, so you won't be nervous and you won't be intimidated to get in that ring. Just do it over and over and over again. It's just like a baby walking. You just don't walk in the ring and start sparring and thinking that, you're going to be the best individual at this, this fighting or whatever the case is. When a baby walks, boom, it falls or tries to walk. It's step, fall, step, fall. And then eventually it walks. Use that same metaphor when it comes to stepping into the ring. You get out there, you're going to take your bumps and bruises. Okay? It's inevitable. You're going to take your bumps and bruises and you're going to get embarrassed. Get past it. Throw your pride out the door. You're going to get embarrassed. Even when you get to the veteran levels, there are still points in time as where, you might just get caught with some bad stuff. And it's like, man, I really sparred like trash today. Yes, you did. So what did you learn from that? Don't worry about embarrassment. Embarrassment is one of those necessities that's going to develop you into a better fighter, okay? I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you like, follow, subscribe, share, and also drop some gems in the comments as far as what else you may want to have some advice about, some techniques, some whatever else you want. I got you. So thank you for watching. Have a great training.